Hello, my listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Be Real podcast. Today, we're going to be dissecting the match day 27 against Real Betis at the Villamarin. And today, I'm joined by none other than our on-ground reporter, Sid. So, if you're listening or watching this, you should realize how privileged, you basically are to be in the presence, of the almighty Sid. How are you doing, man? Sid, long time no see, man.
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. Just 3 games every 2 days. So it's just like busy in that zone. But apart from that, all good. And how are you doing?
Yeah, man. I'm good, man. I'm totally good. It's nice to have you on the show. And I'm really excited, to hear what your thoughts are, about the game and, the upcoming games that, the run of fixtures that we face, in the next month of March, more or less. But before we dive into things, let's just, quickly give a shout out to our sponsors, Manscaped. Manscaped, which are the, pioneers of male grooming products. And, to get a 20% discount, just use the code LBR20 in your checkout, on manscaped.com. And, you can show some support and, show some support to Manscaped as well. And furthermore, this podcast is powered by the Talksport Fan Network. Also, the links to that is also down in the description below. And finally, also, we are also sponsored by Fanatics. And the link to Fanatics also is just in the description below. So you just can use that links also, to support the pod, to support the channel and, make these guys know that you're coming from us. And yeah, with all the formalities out of the way, so let's just get straight to to the thick of business. So since so now actually we started the day with the very bad news that Dani Ceballos is out for 2 months. Just tell me how important Dani Ceballos has been to this team, and what are we gonna miss, if anything at all.
Man, I think it's gonna be a big, big miss. Danny Ceballos finally was getting a consistent string of games, and finally we could see the player we wanted him to be in 2018, 2019. And he was providing one kind of a balance in the midfield, especially with the ball. That was kind of what Tony Cruz used to do. I'm not saying exactly what Tony Cruz used to do, but the responsibility, the style that was needed. Like Kamavinga and Germany, they do have, say, a slight aggression with the ball. They can dribble, but sometimes what they really lack is controlling the ball in the midfield and passing side to side and then progressing it forward. And Danny Ceballos, man, he was doing so well. Like every time, like against the Man City game when he came out, he got a standing ovation, like at the Bernabeu. And this was a consistent thing. And even talking to fans after every game after the Bernabeu, and they were also like surprised. And on top of that, they were super happy because a Spanish player becoming an integral part of the team, and there was a contract extension on the go. And I think it's going to be a big, 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 big miss, man, because him and Jude Bellingham, both of them out in our midfield, it's gonna be, I say, Fede Valverde going back to where he belongs.
That's very a very nice end to it, Freddie going back to where he belongs more or less. But yeah, you just hit the nail on the head about what Dani Ceballos has grown to become for this team. Honestly, he was the player we bought in 2018. It's finally now that he is being able to realize that, and it's always quite interesting because whenever because we're in an English dominated space, so mostly the people you speak to are people who watch the Premier League a lot, or people who are living in that environment. So they're like, Dani Ceballos, come on, why are you guys crying about Dani Ceballos? Because of course he stayed for them for 2 years without making any significant impact. But as you rightly highlighted, you look at the big games, you look at the game against City, and he came off to a standing ovation. I think there is no bigger testament to how important, to how crucial he has been to Real Madrid for the past 3, 4 months. And it's very sad. But I'm just gonna ask you something. I know you're a big Carlo stan, but I also know that you're someone who also, likes to be also quite objective as well. So, do you think Carlo should not have played? Of course, hindsight is 2020. Do you think him playing that much against Sociedad was unwarranted in the first place?
Man, I also feel like this is like the next 2 weeks, right? Are
Yeah.
kind of like where a lot of titles would be determined, like, and I felt being in a semi-final of a Copa del Rey, right? You wanted to get your, say, best midfield out so that you could get a result to the Bernabeu. And that way, Carlo Ancelotti, because he didn't have a lot of options in defense, because the atmosphere was so heated with what happened with Raul Asensio. I thought he started started Dani Ceballos to provide that, provide that key factor where somebody would keep the ball and switch it very fast. He would keep the ball, pass it to Jude, who would switch. And what just and that also happened at the end, like end of the game when that injury happened, right? We could always say could Carlo would have stopped, could not, but I think with the idea, like I'm obviously I like Carlo Ancelotti, but I think the idea to start him was very important because he was finally in that rhythm, in that zone where he was churning out performances game after game. And I don't think you would want to stop a momentum, especially in a semi-final. If it was like a say round of 32 or something like that, I would have understood. But it was a semi-final, so he had to put his best cards out. And one thing about like Dani Ceballos is that I also feel a lot of people are saying, okay, Real Madrid are having a bad season because the string of results have been up and down. If not for Dani Ceballos, it would have been worse. I think he stepped in which is very important, and he did the job that was given to him. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti has to be criticized here that it came very late, where Carlo has started to trust him consistently. But when he did, you could see what Dani Ceballos could put in. And he is the reason why we are still in competition, competing for trophies so far. And I give like majority of a credit to Dani Ceballos because the way he has like kept the team ticking.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because, and you rightly pointed, the thing is like Danny offers something different. And I think, it's very great, how you mentioned about the fact that, like, okay, like Tony Cruz, and stuff like that. But like he's the person that, yeah, we're not saying like he's the next Tony Cruz or anything. Like in one way, even in a certain way, like they're dissimilar players as well. But the point is, like he offered something different. He offered that balance that Carlo was, constantly talking about, in the first months of the season. Like he wants to find that balance. He wants to find that balance, and eventually, like Dani Ceballos gave that. And I think we're gonna understand even better, in the coming games, how just important Dani Ceballos was, to the team and to the balance of the team. But again, this is a window for players like Edu Camavinga, because we've spoken about Camavinga at length, on previous, with Jacob, with Sahel, and all the guys that Camavinga needs to, step up. Of course, we know that like he's had, the injury at the beginning of the season, and then he's had, some minor niggles here and there, But do you think like, a player like Camavinga can step up and step into the role that, okay, of course, again, different players, but you get the point I'm trying to make is like, okay, we are looking for balance, we're looking for stability. Like, do you think, someone like Camavinga can, eventually, grow and become a stable presence in this midfield?
Like if it's you know can he do it? Yes. Has he done it before? Yes. Remember 2 seasons back, he he was a part of that integral midfield where we went on to win the Champions League and Paris, and he was a consistent performer. Obviously, after that season, he had like a season with ups and downs, and this season he got injured. But if you remember when he came on against Girona, and that cameo he had an impact on that game. Obviously, we won the game 2-0. Any other day, it could have been 5-6-0, or if the players were converting, if Vinny like started to think like I should score more, it should have been a different game. But when he came in, he showed that he could have an impact. He almost had an assist for Rodrigo. And there were also media reports that now Carlo Ancelotti sees that Kamavinga is a challenge right now because he has to get the best out of him, or at least replicate what he was doing a season and a half back. And I hope he does that. And this is the perfect time, where a settled player like Dani Ceballos is going to be out for a lengthy spell, 2 months, like March and April. If he's back, he'll be back in, say, May. And this is the moment as a football player you look forward to, where instant impact is expected. And for Real Madrid, you have to do like, and do I doubt that Kamavinga cannot do it? No, I think he can do it. It's the matter of fact how fast he can do it, or is it something which is on the back of his mind where I'm like, oh no, is he bothered by something? He's like, no, I'm not ready or something. If his mindset is right, I think he can do it.
All right, see that that's a very good point. But what I would counter with this is, and you laid it out on the plate perfectly. Camavinga's best performances for Real Madrid has come as an impact sub.
Um, Some games, yes. I think
I mean,
last
okay,
season.
just straight for interrupting, but like look at the top five, top 10 games that you can see of Camavinga. I can guarantee you 80% of that are games where he came on as a sub.
But also, if you like, I definitely agree to that, what you're saying. But if you think in a way, look at his age and look at the player he has to, like, the best years of Kamavinga are ahead of him. And these are the moments he has to capitalize on, where if he knows if he's going to be fit and he can perform, he's going to get a stretch of, say, games at the business end of the season where he has to show what he can do. As simple as that. And this is the time, man, like he's been great for France. He's been great for Real Madrid. This is a time where, coming back from injury, there are a lot of doubts. There's a lot of gossip around in the air. And as a football player, this is what you want. People, your back's against the ball and everybody is like, okay, you now come in as a superstar. It's like, I can take responsibility. And if he wants to be that integral part of Real Madrid's midfield for next season, he has to do it right now. Because now he's competing. Earlier, he was competing with Chouameni. Now he's competing with Dani Ceballos and Chouameni. And this is the moment where he's like, okay, can I do what Ceballos does? I have to show what Ceballos can do, and also I can add like a French flavor to it and the attributes he has in his game, which is a lot of dribbling, a lot of say risk taking. One thing which I really don't like about Kamavinga is the places where he takes risks. Sometimes he's dribbling just outside your penalty box, and I'm like, just keep a clean sheet, man. You don't have to do a roulette right now. I know you come from Zidane's family, but just let me breathe. But this one thing, if his head is right, he can do it.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
I think you make fair points, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I do think I was critical of Camavinga before he came. At the when he
Uh,
first came rather, but he's proven me totally wrong, and he's more than justified. The hype that was around. He's joining of the team, but I do think like there are years to move, and you rightly point out like we have to understand the age of Camavinga and also like the players that he was playing with, or the players that were ahead of him when he first joined the team. Casemiro, Cruz, Modric, and so on and so forth. You understand? So, but I think also like maybe that's also you mentioned the name that I think might be important to go a segue into like he's had quite a difficult season, and I just want to take like like your perspectives, like interacting with the fans, like what do they think of Orion Chouameni? You understand? Chouameni has in some way stepped up for the club. Like okay, the performances haven't been there, but he's been asked to play a position that he absolutely detests playing. He said this thousands of times. I do not want to be a centre back. You understand? But the club was short-handed. Chouameni, at least was a body there. Like he did well in some games. He performed really badly in some games. Now he was back to the midfield at the weekend, then back to in defense, in the midweek. And I do feel like there's been an upturn in his form. Well, like, just take me through the whole Chouameni thing throughout since the beginning of September till now.
and I would probably take it from a season and a half back, where like 2 seasons back in a way, where when he was signed, right, and the way he adapted so fast to replace Casemiro when Casemiro left for Man United. And people were like surprised by his ability to adapt, perform, and become an integral part of the team so quickly. But over time, there has been a lot of say doubts, and the best way to put it, I don't think he's a fan favorite in Madrid. At that position, Real Madrid are so used to seeing players who, in a way, have defined that position. Like from Claudio Makelele, you had Casemiro, Xabi Alonso. So the bar is very high, and the initial part is there. But what is missing is, I don't think he's very consistent with his game. But I would definitely give a shout out about the fact that he has the ability to excel at a position where he doesn't want to play, and he takes one for the team. He's not a centre back. Whenever he has been asked, he has put in some decent performances, some great performances, but what you want is him playing in the midfield. And I think when how to say, I think which game was it when he was starting in midfield? I think it was City, right? The game after City. I
I
completely
think
forgot when he start.
Girona, no?
He start. So we lost. We dropped point against Osasuna, and then it
It was
was he
Girona.
playing? Yeah, so in Girona also, I remember all in our fan camps also, we were discussing that this is what happens when you want Chouameni to play in midfield.
Yeah,
This is the impact he can have. The only thing is, can he do it consistently? And, and now, because earlier it was the question was, is this just Kamavinga and Chouameni? Now, because Dani Ceballos has come in and he has also changed the dynamics, so it's not
yeah.
easy. And I don't think he's a fan favorite in Madrid. And once I remember talking to Alex Kirkland, one of our fan camps, where the ESPN journalist, and we asked him, what's your opinion on on Orlean Chouameni? And he's like, is he a fan favorite? No, I think he's the player who's criticized a lot, and the reason is defensive transitions. As a defensive midfielder, how you cover spaces during a defensive transition kind of tells you a lot about. But recently he has changed, because he's been playing center back, sometimes left center back, right center back, to play again in midfield. It has been difficult for him. So I don't know where I am at. I know he can do better because there is a reason why the whole Florentino Perez gang is like they spent like this much money on him. It's not gonna be like if you see every 2 years to spend around 100 million on a mid player, was like Chouamini, Jude. Uh, there has to be expectations, but he has to consistently show it. You cannot show it like sporadically some parts of the games or have one good game and two okay games. That position players have to give. You don't expect a 9 out of 10, but consistently you have to give a 7.5 out of 10. Because if that position the player plays well, the team plays well. We also know it. Like defensive midfield is where the vision of the team comes in.
True, true. That's actually very true. Actually, like that's the thing. Like, and I personally, I feel like like since the second leg against City, there's been an upturn in the performances of Tchouaméni actually. Because I feel like like he's played really well against City. He played really well against Girona, and like against Espanyol as well. Yeah, sorry, against what's it called, uh Sociedad. In the midweek as well. I think he was like quite in a lot of places as well. Like putting out fires all around. So I do think maybe like there's been an upturn in the form, but let's see like how far this will go because I think we're entering the crunch part of the season. Yeah, but in that case, before we go on, let's just take some comments and then we can get back to talking about Real Betis. So we start with Ashik. Ashik says like no Fede, no Ceballos, no Jude against the GOAT. I was looking forward
Oh.
to having a goat curry on Saturday, but it may be difficult since we're missing three key ingredients from the recipe. As usual, classic with man of the words. Here we said like Sunaid also is in chat says big up the panel. Ashik was actually shouting you out. It says finally you're broadcasting from home. And random guy won Hala Madrid. Ashik was saying, can we get Cruz for a while before Dani Ceballos returns? And he says Augustus Caesar brought the end of Mark Antony. We need our own Augustus to bring down Betis' Antony. Uh, they
Man,
cancelled Antony's red card, but they can't cancel Jude's red card. Hypocrisy. All right, so let's get your opinion
man,
on this though.
man, what do you want me to say? I am scared. My heart is racing like Tom and Jerry. Remember, Tom used to have that moment when you see and the heart would go like tup, 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 tup. I am that right now. My heart is beating so fast. Anthony on the wings. My God, like this is giving me Messi, Suarez, Neymar combined vibes, man. Like I can't. And then if Anthony looks, like if he looks with anger, I think it's over for us. Like I have no trust. I even if we get a combination of Marcelo and Roberto Carlos, Carvajal and Ramos, I don't think we can tackle Anthony, man. And the form he is in, my God, he killed Getafe, man. Did you see that at the Colosseum? He was on fire. Like he was so great that Getafe are thinking of building a statue. Like Man United already regret it, you know.
Well, yeah, actually, like Anthony is actually like all the memes of Sanchez has actually been in good form with three goals
Yeah,
and
he's
one
been.
assist in 5 games. Again for Betis, it's
Yeah,
going to be quite interesting to see how that pans out. Tomorrow. But anyways, let's get along with the comments. Like Sunit actually was saying, like Dan Ceballos was put in the lineup for control. So see that press was dangerous in the beginning. His call was justified. And Ashik was also saying like we can also start a midfield with Luca and then bring on Kama as a sub. He comes in as a sub and justifies, the super sub label more or less. And Sued was actually saying like Chouameni is cut for the big occasions. Him in midfield with some help from Fede will decide our big games, more or less. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is something that's happened, so we can't, deny that. Like, Chouameni has stepped up so for certain times. But for me personally, I just feel like Chouameni has stagnated. Like I just feel like there's been no growth in my opinion. I feel like you see a lot of players taking big strides. We saw that with Fede already. We saw that with Camavinga to some extent. We saw that of course with like players like when Jude came to Real Madrid, he took a big stride from what he was at Borussia Dortmund. We saw that with Vinicius, with Rodrigo. We've seen that even I think even with I don't want to be harsh, but I feel like we've seen that even with Fran Garcia. But I think like for me personally, like we haven't seen that with Chouameni. Like okay, now I'm not saying that all of a sudden Fran Garcia is a better player, but I'm saying like I have seen a jump in the performances of Fran. You understand? But like we haven't seen that from what Chouameni is at least for the past 18 months to 2 years. I kind of feel like it's been a flat line. And right now we can see like even Dani Ceballos has stepped up his game and like he's ahead of him. I mean, if we're gonna choose midfielders who are fit, Dani Ceballos is gonna start before Chouameni is selected.
Yeah. 100%. Completely
So,
agree with you.
so this is the
And
point. I feel
this is why the criticism comes in.
so. For me personally, this is just the point that I'm. I'm not denying the quality that's there, but I just feel like he hasn't made that jump. He hasn't made that put. And the point is like, as you rightly pointed, this is Real Madrid where like Casemiro came, made that jump and literally made, defensive midfielders were a synonym of Casemiro's name. You understand? You search
Yeah.
Google for defensive midfield, the picture of Casemiro pops up. You understand? We know Xabi Alonso what Xabi was. We know Makalene won the UCL, So we know who these people are. And these people like have anchored this midfield for years and years and years. Even away from even players like, like those guys, we had players like Sami Khedira. Khedira was someone that could literally walk into all the midfields in the world, you understand? He could do that
Yeah.
job for all the teams in the world, you understand? So, but right now
Man,
you look at yeah,
remember like Sami Khedira and that La Decima season. He was literally injured until I think the end of the semifinals when we beat Bayern. And I think he was injured like 6 months of the season, and then he starts the Champions League final.
yeah,
That was the effect like he had. And
yeah.
that's the thing. Like, so I mean, this is why the criticism comes in, because you don't pay this much money for a defensive midfielder until you're Man United. Like, like, which is very true. Like, and it's very like the expectations have to be, like high because of the players he's replacing. And but I hope it comes in, man. I think now he can get a string of games where obviously he needs to perform because this is the business end of the season. This is where like La Liga, Champions League, like the games are coming thick and fast. It's two derbies in literally 10 days. If you like drop points here and there, La Liga is literally like you might never know. It's either the red and white in Madrid or the Catalans are just gonna take that lead. So now is the time. This is the time. But I think he's gonna start though against Betis. I think in my midfield he starts. Um, because of the performance he put in against Girona. The only thing that you said, because he hasn't had a jump, obviously, like the jump also has to be like. So last season, a lot of it was Tony Kroos because he was playing that position, like, and then he got like Germany got injured at that final of the Champions League where he didn't play. And now because he was playing center back, and then Dani Ceballos he has done a good job. Camavinga always comes in between. So now is the time, man. He has to do something where the coaches put in a lot of trust in him, and now he's gonna get a lot of games, I hope. And I, what we can say is fingers crossed, man. Block Anthony, get our brownie points.
Exactly. Anyways, like so speaking of that, let's get to Real Betis. So Betis are not like as high flying as they were last season. Like they were very high. They were like really really high last season. Although like eventually they dropped off and they qualified for the Conference League. But right now they're actually even outside of the Conference League positions. Like although I think they're just 1 point behind the sixth position more or less. So. And then, of course, we mentioned the fact that they got Anthony as well for Manchester United. As as firepower, and more or less they're like still And he has actually done really well. Like he's, as we said, like he's scored 3 goals, have 1 assist in 5 games. So it's like and also they're in the last 16 of the Conference League. They're gonna play like I think it's Gumarães from Portugal, something like that on Thursday as well. So they
I
also
think
have
they
one
play.
eye on Europe.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so they
what?
also have, yeah, go on.
No, 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 complete, and then I'll say.
No, no, I was just saying they have one eye on Europe, so like also they might also be looking, to kind of like maybe have, a bit of like, I don't know, not a high tempo game. Of course, it's Real Madrid, so it's going to be what it is. But I mean, they also will have an eye on Europe to, kind of like try to, get a silverware because that's the only source of silverware they can, get right now. They're out of the cup, they're not going to win the league. So maybe, the conference they can offer a realistic chance, for a title for them.
Yeah, man, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you. And the fact that like Betis as the club, if you remember when they won the Copa del Rey under Pellegrini, I think 2 years back, 3 years back, uh, that was something that kind of changed a lot of things, and the owner started putting in more money so that they become like a European club. I'm not saying a Champions League club. That would be their consistent dream, but and this season they have had some decent results. They are getting the points, and now they are, with Anthony and Isco also coming back in form. They're trying to
Yeah.
compete for that European spot that there is. But what I was saying before, where what I am looking forward to see the most is Isco playing against us. I think last season, I think the first game he was injured. I don't think he played, right? And then at the
No,
sorry, yeah, Villamarin also he was injured, and at the Bernabeu he broke the leg. So
yeah.
remember, but remember, like, so that is
The Tony
something which
Cruz
is yeah, and he stood up and applauded him. He's genuinely valued a lot by Real Madrid faithful, man. That season he had, I think he's a like he is a player which is a dying breed, man. That number 10 that could, I'm not saying the fastest dribbler, but could progress the ball, taking on men and then getting in goals, assists. Last season, he was one of the best players in La Liga. Like, I think the number of man of the matches he had, and this season also, he's getting momentum right now. And I think obviously the stadium is going to make a huge difference. For people say that, I think it was Lucas Vasquez or Dani Carvajal. I don't remember. 2 years back or something, they were at the Villamarin and they said, you could feel the fans do make a difference here. And I've never been to the stadium personally, but I've heard like if you have to see a few games, like for with respect to like atmospheres in Spain, Villamarin is probably one of the top. Like they say, it's
yeah.
it's an old stadium, obviously, but there is that the atmosphere is very different. And people in Sevilla, they sing like an English club. 90 minutes, whole stadium. Like I've seen games at the Sevilla Sanchez Pizjuan, and I've heard from fans in Sevilla also that Sevilla and Betis are known for this. That is gonna be a like it's gonna be a difficult game, man. These games are always tricky. We lost points against Osasuna. Obviously, that was because of Jude getting sent off. But like, and also like Betis can be a tricky. Like if we drop points, suddenly it becomes a huge problem. And we are literally missing Jude, Dani Ceballos, oof, and
Yeah.
Probably Valverde also, because I was
Yeah, I
reading.
heard. Yeah. I but he has also an issue, but I expect Freddie to be back. I mean, Freddie is a man made of iron, man. He's not gonna miss games.
Yeah, but to be honest, like if we can get a result with Fede getting a rest before the derby, I don't mind. Like literally, like you said, Betis would have an eye on Europe when they play Victoria
Yeah.
SC, and they also have a home game. So it's gonna be a little challenging though, like because Betis are always like these are people think it's like, it's only three clubs, but these clubs are a little different.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
and also like Betis are getting a lot of confidence, they won back-to-back games. I think this happened for the first time this season or second time or something where so they've gotten a little more momentum with the signing of Anthony. And he's playing well. I think the Spanish game is suiting him where it's not very physical and he's getting a few extra touches on the ball. There is space where he could, and he's a man who's I think his game is built on dribbling. Obviously, he's a Brazilian. We don't like he doesn't play like one. Maybe he is right now, but like maybe. he can make a difference, but we also have, say, Vinny, Mbappe, Rodrigo up front. So if
Yeah, that's
they,
actually, as you also like were saying, like like it's you think it's not a big type, but the point is we've only won twice against Betis in the last five games. But although like we haven't lost as well, but just goes to show you that like it's a very it's a very potential tricky game. And as you rightly mentioned, the Villamarin is a place that it's something that even I think when you watch from the TV as well, you can actually understand like that. Yeah, like it the atmosphere carries some weight. You understand? So again, that's the thing. Like people always condemn La Liga for this and that, but when you get to start watching the league, you actually, get to understand like there are teams that, okay, yeah, like, we don't have the big teams like, that you can see in England, like, I mean, with Spurs and all those guys that make up the top six and top seven or whatever it is. But you do have these teams that, like that have like, they have traditional history, like, so like they're like just against, the establishment, you have the Bilbaos, you have the Sociedades, the Villarreals, and, so on and so forth. So like, it's, very, very strong, that opposition for that. I think like, Real Betis, especially at the Villamarin, is one of those teams. But I do think like it's a game that has a lot of jeopardy for us, and I think not too much for them in the context that like even if they do not win this game, they're still in the mix for that conference league position more or less, whatever it is. But I do think like as you rightly mentioned earlier, like right now we are in such a very tight spot that I kind of fear that like dropping points in a game of two or in a game or two, can actually spend the end, of the title race for either of the three clubs that are currently, involved in this title race. But yeah, I mean, we still have a lot of games to go. Like, I think say more 12 more games to go, so anything can literally happen. But yeah, man. So like let's get to the Real Madrid side of things and like so you rightly mentioned that like Judy's out because he's injured, more or less. Like we are expecting also like of course, Danny Ceballos. Sorry, Judy's out because he's suspended. Danny Ceballos out. Of course, like we have like Danny Carvajal and then Militao also out. We have like Federico Valverde 50-50 more or less. But yeah, let's see how that goes. But considering all of this, like what do you expect to see as a starting lineup against the Real Betis? Also, like put in mind we have a game against Atletico Madrid in the midweek.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, if we had the luxury of resting players, if we were like a few points ahead in La Liga, I would have done that. But and also we don't have a lot of options right now. I feel obviously Corto is gonna start, but then it's also the return of Lucas Vasquez. We are at this point of a situation where Carlo Ancelotti and the coaching staff prefers Fede Valverde as the right back. To be honest, Fede Valverde could you make him a NASA scientist, he would excel at it. Like you give him something and he does it so well that you feel do you genuinely question that is this not his natural position, But I think yeah, Lucas Vasquez is gonna be the right back. Oh, I hope Asensio starts. Because what happened at Anoita, I just hope that's literally out of the back of his mind. It's gone, and he's in the starting 11 with Rudiger. Then it's gonna be Mendy, Modric, Chouameni, and Kamavinga because I think Fede is gonna not he's not gonna be risked because we have the derby on Tuesday, and then it's gonna be Mbappe, Vinny, Rodrigo up front.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. I think it's maybe it's proper as well to give just a minute to like kind of like shout out Raul Asensio as well. Like the chants, in my opinion, at Sociedad were absolutely horrendous. Like, and it's not something that should be allowed. But yeah, I think like there. I mean, I feel like I don't know, man. Like I've been to games. See, you've been to games as well. I feel like personally, there are many ways like you can insult people. Like I mean, come on, like. I've been to games where like I've seen fans insult people, but without like, I don't want to say crossing the line because already like when you're insulting someone and their mother and their family, already you're crossing the line. But like, like you're not shouting, I don't know, you're like not wishing literally wishing dead on someone. I mean, that's a different kind of like that's kind of like, a very twisted kind of perspective, honestly.
Yeah, like that is true, man. Like, but also like I don't want to say defend the fans or something, but what used to be heard at stadiums before, say 10, 15 years back, used to be much more serious than this. So I don't think football players can take this so sensitively. I'm not saying, see, like abusing somebody racially is completely wrong, you know? Like But I feel like if it's England, they would make a chant to make it funny, but they would say in another way, You're gonna be dead." You know, I just feel in Spain, there's not a lot of chanting culture as such. It's just basic chants. So that is where I think it gets a little bit, say, misled, but also in that region in itself because of the politics involved between the Basque country and the Madrid teams, right? Politically, they are like always fighting, and that can, I don't even know how I can put it without without sounding controversial, but that can also be a major reason why, because he's a Madrid-born guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously, you should not be shouting somebody to be dead. Like, this is completely wrong. But would you like, but on the other hand, people abusing their mothers, fathers, family. I think football has always been that way. Like, if you like, in the era of Maldini to Raul, like, people remember what happened to Figo. I'm not saying like, and then you're a Real Madrid player. I think sometimes you have to grow thick skin. Like, look at Vinny. Obviously, he's reactive, but what he does, he also performs. Like, if somebody just reacts and doesn't perform, then it's gonna get problematic. And fans will do anything to get in your head.
Yeah.
Remember, their idea is they are competing with a club which is 20 times bigger than their club. And they want is a result over those 95 minutes. Like, for them, the Copa del Rey is the Champions League.
That's true. That's actually very
So,
true. Yeah.
like, yeah, like, a racial, whatever happens, I literally hate it. When I was at the derby and the game was stopped, right? That was the first time I was watching a football game and it was stopped in between for 20-25 minutes, and I have no clue what's happening, and thankfully, at the Anoeta, I didn't go that route, you know. But obviously, what they were chanting is wrong. But, as a footballer, sometimes you just need to have a lot of thick skin also. Not every country is gonna be chanting like English fans, where it's just, trying to make you down, make it funny, and their idea is I need the result. They're in the semi-final, which is literally, say, 2 games away from a trophy now.
Yep.
And also, to say, back them up in a way, the current holders of Copa del Rey is Athletic Bilbao. For
So
them to
yeah.
take the trophy from Bilbao is it's a different rivalry altogether. So,
Yeah.
and I just hope it doesn't affect Raul Asensio much, man. Um, this is obviously what happened was wrong, but as a football player and the team Real Madrid has, the team of like psychologists, the way Carlo Ancelotti dealt with it, he was like, young guy, just get him off at halftime. Like,
Yeah.
and and I also feel sometimes the club uses it in the media a little too much. Like, it's a like, not everything is a problem. Like, you're at a football stadium, you can't control 35,000 people, man. With majority of them being drunk. They are there. They have a probably very disturbed football lives. They have the money to come and shout whatever they want to in the stadium. And the people who don't have money are literally commenting on Instagram posts. It's literally the same. It's literally the same. So it's yeah. Obviously, what they did was wrong. I will repeat it. But you should have a certain kind of a thick skin, man. Like, what happened to him after the 2006 World Cup, when he winked at the Portugal team for, when he made Rooney get a red
Yeah.
card, and
The
then
red
this all.
category. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, like, I know, and as the club, you have to protect your players. But I don't think it happens with, like, Vinicius. He goes to every stadium and this happens to him. We never talk about his mental side of the game, where he has the mental strength. Obviously, he's also 24, 25. He's not, how old is Vinny Jr.? 24?
Yeah. 24.
In a way, he's a kid, man. Like, according to Spanish rules, people are kids till 26. And so I'm just, yeah, and I'm hoping it doesn't impact the team or, Raul Asensio. And I also know that Raul Asensio is very mentally strong. I was reading this article where, him and another, the guy who made his debut recently, from
Yeah,
Castilla. I forgot it. Yeah, Jacobo Ramon. Both of them used to be literally on par, and Jacobo Ramon used to be the better central defender at Castilla. And when the opportunities came to the player, Raul Asensio has like leapfrogged him. Like the coaches at Castilla are in literally in shock where they didn't expect Raul Asensio to be that good. They were all betting on Jacobo Ramon, and when the opportunity has come, Hakogaran was okay, but he has not impressed the coaching staff that much. And Raul Asensio has impressed the coaching staff that much where they are not looking to sign a centre back. They're happy with Asensio, Rudiger, Alaba, and Militao. So it shows a lot of character and mental strength from the player.
yeah, I couldn't agree more about that. Like also like yeah, but we just hope like it doesn't affect him because whatever eventually like I understand what you're saying about growing a thick skin and everything. But remember, see, like 2 months ago, this guy wasn't even sure he's gonna play again for Real Madrid. You understand? So he was literally still out of this. So definitely like with some help and all that, he can. I hope develop, as you said, some thick skin because like people are gonna say stuff, so there's nothing you can do, and especially if it's shown to like be something that affects you, then people are gonna do it even more. So it's very unfortunate, but this is just the reality of the world that we live in, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yeah.
since we're all the way with that, I think we can just slowly wrap things up, Sid, and maybe we can just get some predictions and see how it goes. So, what do you think about like the game? What do you think the game's gonna look like?
I say, I'll just go for a funny prediction. I say 4-3. Our
Oh
front three
wow,
to score. Mbappe to score a brace, and Rodrigo one, and Vini one, and Anthony hat trick.
oh, wow.
That would lit up the the social
Oh,
media, man. Anthony hat trick
that's.
against Ram.
I mean, man, like don't let the meme have a hat trick against us, man. Come on, bro. Let him score
Come
one,
on,
but like, come on, not three, man. Three,
4-3.
that's
Nah,
really
serious
crazy.
prediction would be. I say it's gonna be close. I feel it's gonna be a 2-1 or a 3-1. I'm inclined to say 3-1 because our front three has a lot of goals in them, you know. But I feel we could concede if Lucas Vasquez is on that right flank. There is always this perception that we could concede. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fortunately, like Anthony with the form he's in, he's not gonna face, Lucas Vasquez. If he was gonna face Lucas Vasquez, he would have increased the jeopardy there. But yeah, I do think like the game is gonna be a bit tighter, and I'm expecting like a 2-1 victory for Real Madrid. I do think it's gonna be like you know, we score, they score, we score kind of situation, or like we go 2-0 up, they score one, and then it's a frantic end to the game or something like this. But I just see like it's gonna be quite tight because like that's what also Mano Pellegrini does. Like he runs a very tight ship with his teams, not like the most like they're not like the most offensive team, but like they're very like solid and like difficult to beat. So I do think we're gonna like see something similar. So I'm predicting a 2-1 for Real Madrid. I can see Ashik in the chat actually predicts a 2-3-2 for Real Madrid. Yeah, that would be a fair result. Otherwise, I'm not too sure, if like we're gonna be able to score three past them, or like I think the 3-3 is a very high scoring game in my opinion, especially when Mario Pellegrini is concerned. But yeah, like I think that's a fair one as well.
yeah, and also like
Yeah,
whenever like an ex-manager is playing his say former team, right? Like Pellegrini, you have a different in your head. It's there. I want to prove these guys. I
yeah,
had their best season with them, but they sacked me after the season. And also
yeah,
in Spain, there is a journalism, like these media people, these journalists, they always say that La Liga owes, or like Spanish football owes um, Pellegrini a La Liga. And I'm not saying that he's gonna win La Liga. He's won a Copa del Rey, and if he gets a Conference League, I think it's gonna be very difficult beating Chelsea in the Conference League because they are literally like they have a Champions League team in the Conference League. But yeah, it's a different kind of motivation, and it's always fun to see, like two ex-Real Madrid managers going head to head.
yeah. That's true. Actually, like I do feel like, well, let's remember also like Pellegrini has won the title in England as well. So I think that's more than enough compensation for that. So he doesn't necessarily have to win the league in Spain, more or less. But yeah, I do get what you're saying with ex-managers. It just gives me the vibe of Arsenal and Unai Emery. Like last season he ended the title. This season also he ended their title beat as well. Like he's literally done it 2 seasons in a
And
row. So it's
Arsenal are the only team they finished third in a two-horse race, man. But that's a different podcast altogether. We might
That's
get Big Steve for that. He loves shitting on us.
yeah, that'd be crazy. Just don't tell Sunil we're gonna do that because he's gonna like gonna like veto the whole thing. Anyways, I think with that we can just call it a wrap. And it was great to have you on, Sida. I trust you enjoyed your evening. I or absolutely love it. And also thanks to everyone in the chat, Ashik, Random Guy, Sunaid, Scott,
But
Jax, Dr. Ark, and so on and so forth. Like it was, great to have you guys, and thanks for keeping us company. And just before we go,
yeah,
we can just give a shout out to our sponsors, Manscaped. So, you can just use the code LBR20 to get a 20% discount on all your male grooming, accessories. And as well, like, we give a shout out to Fanatics, and also like to the Talksport Fan Network. All descriptions are down below. All the links are down below in the description. And finally, we shout out our partners on Instagram, the Real Madrid committee. They actually make a lot of, arts and the charts about the game and after the game related to Real Madrid. So just please give them a look, give them a like, drop a comment and all that. And also like when you watch our videos later, when you listen on the audio, just drop a like, drop a comment. Positive, negative feedback. Feedback is welcome. The goal is just to improve the content that we're creating. And with that, we sign out by saying, "Hala Madrid."
nada más.